What is going on, Future Focus Nation? Back at it. My name is George, and we talk about investing in this channel. Today, we're going to talk about a cryptocurrency project that I am very, very, very excited about. I'm very bullish on it, and I'm going to talk you through, a lot of it, what it is, because when you invest in something, you should know who it is, who the founder is, what the program is about, what the philosophy is. And today, we're going to address a lot of these things. This video is going to be broken down into two parts. In this first part, I'm going to talk about, the history of it and the first 3 phases out of 5 phases that it's currently in. And then in the next part, we'll talk about, the next 2 phases and the future of the project. We'll also talk about my price prediction for it in 2021 and beyond. And we'll talk about how much I've put into this cryptocurrency. But with all that said, let's get into it. All right, so what we're going to talk about today is a cryptocurrency called Cardano. The actual cryptocurrency is ADA or ADA, and we'll talk about where that comes from. But we're going to talk about what Cardano is. We're going to talk about the founder, who he is, and a little bit about him. We're going to talk about his philosophy on the 3 generations of blockchain and why he considers Cardano to be in the 3rd generation. We're going to talk about the philosophy of Cardano. We're going to talk about the structure and foundation. We're going to talk about the first 3 phases out of the 5 phases. And we're going to talk about why, you should use Cardano, why you should own it. All right. Cardano is a decentralized public blockchain and cryptocurrency project, and it's fully open source. And by open source, all that means is that all the information that's in it, it's open to the public. There's no secrets. So any code that they use is public. Anything that goes on within the blockchain is public. Unlike other companies like Apple and Microsoft, where they have intellectual property, where they'll sue you if you use some of their information. Here it's open source, meaning it's available to the public and the public can use it to build upon it and make it better. Cardano is developing a smart contract platform which seeks to deliver more advanced features than any protocol previously developed. It is the first blockchain platform to evolve out of a scientific philosophy and a research first driven approach. They do this by something that's called proof of stake, where before they put something into the program, they make sure it works and they prove that it works. Unlike other cryptocurrencies that they just make the product and they throw it out there and they hope it works. A lot have failed because of that. This one has been successful so far because they won't implement anything until it's been proven that it works. The development team consists of a large global collective of expert engineers and researchers. So there's people here that are contributing from places such as like Oxford and Harvard, and a lot of PhDs, a lot of smart individuals are contributing to this product. This is how blockchain works, because I know a lot of people still have, they don't even know what Bitcoin is or what cryptocurrency is and how it works. So this is the first step. Someone requests a transaction. After that, the request transaction is broadcast to a peer-to-peer network. Whereas, and we'll show you later, instead of it going to one location, such as in your app, when you go on Facebook and you press send or you upload something, that content that you put into it, it goes to one network, which is the Facebook network. Facebook receives it and then they post it for you. Whereas here, it goes to a collaboration of computers from all over the world that are working together to keep this like legal and make sure everything is accurate and nobody's trying to cheat the system. So the peer-to-peer network, they're known nodes. They're known as nodes. They validate the transaction and the user status using known algorithms. Once it's verified, the transaction is combined with other transactions to create a block of data for the ledger. The ledger is where all this information is written down. And as you see here, the green, that would be your transaction. It gets put into a block with other people's transactions. And all of that goes to, instead of going to one location again, all of this goes to a lot of different locations. A lot of different computers get the same information. That way, if one of them were to be corrupted, we would still be able to verify the real source or the real transaction, because all the other computers would have that same information as well. The new block is then added to the existing blockchain in a way that is permanent and unalterable. The transaction is complete. All right, so here a verified transaction can involve cryptocurrency, contracts, records, or other information. Uh, we'll talk about first generation, which is Bitcoin. That's considered the first generation. It was like the first one. And that one doesn't have the ability to do things such as smart contracts. So here on the right, we have some things that are like myths about cryptocurrency. So they say it has no intrinsic value and that it is not redeemable for another commodity, but that is not true because if you go to a big company like bullion.com, they're a very known distributor of gold and silver that you could go and pay. They allow you to pay in things such as Ether and Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. They allow you to buy these real assets or commodities with cryptocurrency. So that one is false. Has no physical form and exists only in the network. That is false because you can buy something that is like a little USB drive that is made specifically for cryptocurrency. So it's a digital wallet. You plug it in, you take your wallet, you put it in there and you pull it out. And it's called cold storage, meaning it's not attached to the network at all. So if the network were to get corrupted somehow, what you have in your digital wallet would not be corrupted. Companies like Coinbase, they offer this as well. They'll store it for you. If you have it in a Coinbase wallet, they'll pull it out and they'll keep it in cold storage for you, which is all it means is it's separate from the network. It's been removed from the network. That's happening with Bitcoin a lot right now. A lot of Bitcoin, that's why the price keeps going up, because the amount of Bitcoin is reducing. A lot of Bitcoin is being put into cold storage, is being removed from the network. That's why that price is at $40,000 right now, because of supply and demand. The less supply there is, the more demand there is, the higher that price is going to go. And more people are pulling the Bitcoin out, not trading it. They're pulling it out, putting it away in cold storage. And that makes that price keep going up and up and up. And its supply is not determined by a central bank, and the network is completely decentralized. This is true for a lot of them, but not all. Not every single cryptocurrency is decentralized. However, the one we're talking about today, they're officially decentralized, and we'll talk about what that means. All right. So who is the founder? His name is Charles Hoskinson. All right. He's a technology-based entrepreneur. He's a mathematician. He's the co-founder and ex-CEO of Ethereum, which is the second largest market cap coin there is out there, cryptocurrency. They're like second to Bitcoin. He's the founder of Cardano, who we're talking about right now. And he's the founder of In-N-Out Hong Kong, which is one of three big companies that are working to make this whole project come to life and work. So In-N-Out Hong Kong and Emergo, there are three big companies that are working together, three different aspects to do something different in order to make this platform the best platform available. All right, so I'm going to play a clip from him so you could get a sense of who he is and, hear what he's talking about in this clip. Just to preface it, this is back in May, and a lot of people were complaining because the progress is taking a long time. As I told you, we've been through 3 phases so far out of the 5 phases. And going between second and the third phase, there was some delay there. And, all he's trying to say is that perfection takes time. You can't rush perfection. So let me play this for you.
Why is Cardano so stagnant? We launched Shelly, we go up 700%. We're killing our KPIs. We're just knocking it all out of the park. 1,000 stake pools. We had 6 months worth of inflation that went live and the price didn't even go down. And then you got these speculator fucking children who show up, no clue about anything. They can't find their head from their ass. And they say, why is the price stalled? Why is everything stalled out? Oh my Lord, this space is great. It is it's the most unrealistic insanity I've ever seen in my life. Building real value takes time. And we've certainly constructed a lot of it, and we certainly have preserved a lot of it. And we're showing constant, amazing growth in the ecosystem. That's the metric to follow. Whether the markets go up or down is completely dependent on Bitcoin and macro factors and these other things. It's just a meaningless metric. It's a measuring contest that people have. You need to say, if I leave for 3 years and I come back, are you still there? And are you better in 3 years than the prior 3 years? That's the metric you look at. And look at where we launched in September of 2017 and look at where we're at today and ask yourself, Are we better today or are we better then? Great ecosystems, that's an easy answer. And that's what Cardano does. We are going to be completely decentralized, end to end. The first federated cryptocurrency in the history of the space to do that at this scale. And we're going to do that in less than 5 months, it looks like, at this current rate of decay. So that alone is a colossal accomplishment. I mean, it'd be like Ripple waking up one day and say, we're moving to proof of stake. They'd have to go through the exact same thing we went through, and they would have just as much pain. You know, and to do it at this kind of scale, you guys saw how hard we had to work with the exchanges and what we've had to do there. It's a monumental accomplishment. And generally speaking, there's always a pullback after the event. There wasn't for us. So that's a good indicator of things to come. And we got a lot more on the roadmap to deliver. So guys, calm down, you know, just relax. Life is good. The ecosystem's good. Utility is here. And we have delivered on some of the biggest promises ever made in the industry. The ability to do hard forks with the hard fork combinator and preserve the entire history and validate both systems. You know why your Daedalus slows down so much when you hit 98%? It's because you go from validating Byron rules to switching over to validate Shelley rules, and those aren't optimized. That's why you have that little tail synchronization issue. It's an annoyance, but it's actually a good case study. We're not running one set of rules. We're actually running 2 chains at once. There's no one else who's done that in this respect. It's a completely new concept, and we had to invent it out of thin air and implement and bring it in. And if you do it for 2, you can do it for N, which means that for the rest of time, we're gonna have much easier hard forks than anyone else. And that's one of 1,000 things that's inside that code base that we accomplished and built as a project that will be here now forever. And is a massive competitive advantage over Bitcoin, Ethereum, Tezos, or other systems. So that's the key, is that you have those things, and then you invest in those things, and you build into those things. And then developers see that, and they say, wow, that's an incredible platform. I want my token living there. I want my app living there. And we built Cardano for getting to 1 billion people. That's what we want. And so it'll take a long time to do that. Lots of upgrades to get there, new protocols to get there. But we're building on granite, okay? And so that's the vision. And every 3 years, when you look back, you say, it's just unbelievable the progress that's been made.
Like I said before, you can't rush perfection. Things that are good are going to take time to get there. We'll talk about a little later on what he meant about running the 2 programs side by side. That's never been done before. We'll get to that. It's consists about the phases that were set in place. So we're going to talk about the 3 generations of blockchain. So the first one was Bitcoin and the ability to transfer money, which is the Bitcoin currency. All right, Bitcoin was created because everyone was asking the same questions. This was around 2009, 2008. Obviously, we know the financial crisis happened around that time. And what the Federal Reserve did is the same thing they're doing now, which was they printed a lot of money, and they can continue to print. However, they got that money and they bailed out the banks and the corporations instead of kind of what they're trying to do now, which is give the money directly to the people. That didn't happen back then. So the inception of this was, how do we solve that? And one of, the Satoshi Nakamoto came up with, whoever that is, they came up with this idea, which was, let's do something that's not controlled by one person like the Federal Reserve. Let's try to create a product that is controlled by a group of different people. Think of it like back in the day, we had things like Napster, or even today, you have things like the Pirate Bay, where it's hard to bring these down because they're not controlled by one single location. Everybody who has a computer who has that service, they feed to each other. They help each other out by letting you download from them and, giving the information instead of one entity controlling it, which was the Federal Reserve. They control the flow of money. They make more, they take it away. And that was the issue that was happening. The problem with Bitcoin being the first generation platform was that is a problem for a lot of the first generation blockchains. They only allowed for monetary transactions, and there was no way to add conditions to these transactions. So basically what they're trying to incorporate now, which is smart contracts, and we'll talk about what that is momentarily, but this is an example of it. Alice can send Bob 5 Bitcoin, but she couldn't impose conditions to those transactions. For example, she couldn't tell Bob that he will only get the money if he performs certain tasks. So if you were trying to use this to, paying for work, like somebody who's going to paint your house, you wouldn't be able to do this because you couldn't set those conditions on this. You would just be able to give it to that person and hope that they did whatever work you were going to do. So the second generation of the three was this was what it looks like, the nodes. All right. So where peer-to-peer kind of becomes a problem, and what Bitcoin didn't want to happen, was that more than 51% of one entity owned the entire space. So this is, you can see here that this is a problem right here in itself, because there is some companies like BTC.com that owns a big chunk of cryptocurrency. So if a few of these collaborated and merged, or if one person with a lot of money came and bought a few of these companies, they would own more than 51% of what's happening. And this is obviously an issue, because if you own more than 51%, you have the ability to make decisions. And that comes and becomes a problem, and it's happened before. And that's why you have things such as Bitcoin Cash, which is a hard fork of Bitcoin. There was an issue, so there was a problem. The general public couldn't come to a consensus on how to fix that problem. So they went two different ways. One group that wanted it one way went with Bitcoin Cash, and that became its own entity with the rules that they wanted to enforce. And then you have the regular right now, which is Bitcoin, that they went with the rules that they wanted to enforce. So that becomes a problem. The second generation was Ethereum and smart contracts. And as I told you, Charles Hoskinson, he was there from the beginning of this. He was there for ground zero. And what smart contracts wanted to bring was the ability to be able to not just do a coin and send it back and forth to each other, but to do things such as like a mortgage exchange, where I could buy a house from you and we could do that contract here, where like you don't control it, you don't hold that contract, and you can change words on it. And then later on, when we go to court, you can bring this contract up that you altered. And if I didn't have a copy of it, I'd be screwed. So now, instead of one person owning those contracts, they go to a group of different computers all around the world. The goal is for Cardano to get to 1,000 nodes at a minimum, where you have these different is distributed to these different nodes, and not one can alter all the others. An example of this is like if everybody in this chat right here received we were all part of the node, we all had a node, and we received something. If I changed it on mine, on the rest of you in here, it would not appear on there for you. So if we wanted to verify this transaction, mine would be sent away, and because it shows up on all of yours. So obviously yours is correct and mine was corrupted somehow. So that's how they verify these contracts. Smart contracts help you exchange money, property, shares, or anything of value in a transparent, conflict-free way while avoiding the surface of a middleman. So you don't need that one interference. By shares, all this means is exactly what you're thinking, shares in the stock market. Right now, there's tokenized versions of every single stock out there. You could buy Amazon in a tokenized version. You could buy Google in a tokenized form. So on Coinbase, you have the ability to buy these shares of companies, because you don't, when you buy it in a regular brokerage, you don't actually have anything. But here you can have these shares. You could put them in your cold storage wallet, which you could pull out of your computer, and you actually can walk around with your shares of whatever you have. So it's kind of a different way to look at things. The problem was that generations of blockchain didn't really have a good provisions for scalability. So the problem with the first two generations of blockchain was that they can only do so many transactions per second, which slows down. And it makes them seem incapable when you compare them to things like PayPal and Visa, because these can do like thousands of transactions per second, where Bitcoin and Ethereum, they do like 32 per blockchain, or Bitcoin does like 8 per blockchain. So it's very slow. So you can see how that could be a problem. That's something that Cardano's trying to fix. Case in point, the Ethereum and Ethereum classic split, according to Hoskinson, is a classic example of bad governance. So this is what happened. One of the first ICOs of investment funds on Ethereum, they collected 11.5 million ethers, which is now worth $1 billion. The smart contract was improperly audited by this website right here. And as a result, there was a critical money draining bug. The smart contract check balance after sending coins, and this led to the DAO failure. A lot of Ethereum tokens were under the control of hackers, which could be a problem for the community, obviously. In order to save investors and punish hackers, the Ethereum Foundation made a hard fork and Ethereum Classic was created. This was because they couldn't come to a decision on which way to go. And I think Matt, who's on here, this is one of the things that he's very concerned about, hack. And the problem was that it wasn't even a hack. All there was a problem with the actual algorithms, that it was just like a cheat code. Like somebody found a loophole in it and they just were paying themselves Ethereum, Ether. So that caused a big issue. So the third generation of blockchain is what Cardano considers themselves to be. And Hoskinson knew that the blockchains needed to evolve even more. He took the positive elements from the first two generations of blockchain and added some elements of his own. What came about was Cardano. So when I look at a company, I look at what we've looked at so far. The founder, who he is, what he's about. I look at the history of it, and I also look at their philosophy, because I think that's important. And then I look at the future, where they're going to go in the future. So the philosophy, this is straight from their website. Separation of accounting and computation into different layers, implementation of core components in a highly modular functional code, small groups of academics and developers competing with peer-reviewed research. Again, nothing goes into the program without it being tested with proof of stake, verified by not people in the Cardano. They send the work to mathematicians and people with very big IQs, and these people that are not part of the program, who have no say in the program, they verify it, they make sure all the work is done correctly, and then once it's verified, they put everything into the system. Heavy use of interdisciplinary teams, including early use of InfoSec experts, fast iteration between white papers. White papers is just something that they write. So before they even put something to work or start working on a project, they do a white paper and they send it to a bunch of smart people, mathematicians. They send it to people who do code, and they even see if it's worth it or if it's doable before even starting it. So they send that out. Once they get results back from that, then they start the work. Building in the ability to upgrade post-deployed systems without destroying the network, development of a decentralized funding mechanism for future work, a long-term view on improving the design of cryptocurrency so they can work on mobile devices with a reasonable and secure user experience, bringing stakeholders closer to the operation and maintenance of their cryptocurrency, acknowledging the need to account for multiple assets in the same ledger, abstracting transactions to include optional metadata in order to better conform to the needs of legacy systems, learning about nearly 1,000 altcoins by embracing features that make sense. So they take things from all over the place and they work with other cryptocurrencies as together to make this collaborative effort, because Cardano is not building this blockchain just for their own cryptocurrency, which is ADA. They want all the other cryptocurrencies to jump aboard this and use this ecosystem for everybody. Because as he said, all these foundations he has, so IOHK, Emergo, the Cardano Foundation, these are all nonprofit organizations. So he's not making money off of all that he's doing. All these people that are working on this program, they're not making money off of this. Like the philosophers he sends this to, the mathematicians he sends this to, he doesn't pay them. They look at the work, you know, they give it back because they want to contribute to something that he feels is the future, and he's trying to change the world, not just make a few dollars out of something. Like the reason, you know, Ripple, they're currently under investigation by the SEC for their coin XRP, because they were actually skimming money off of the top, unlike these foundations who aren't taking money. Adopt a standards-driven process inspired by the Internet Engineering Task Force, using dedicated foundation to lock down the final protocol design, explore the social elements of commerce, find a healthy middle ground for regulators to interact with commerce without compromising some core principles inherited from Bitcoin. So they want to keep all the good from the previous generations. However, you know, the thing that's we just talked about with Ripple, they're not trying to have that happen again. So they're actually working with the SEC, and they're actually working with all these other corporations to ensure that they're doing things legit, and they don't want to put something in there that's just going to compromise all the stakeholders or everybody who has shares of Cardano or people who are contributing their time to implementing these systems. Another thing I look at when I research a company is goals, and they have clear goals. All right. The team behind ADA and Cardano has a clear goal to build a decentralized platform to allow complex programmable transfers in a more secure and scalable environment. And by decentralization, again, we'll talk about what it kind of looks like, but not one entity controls the whole ecosystem. The platform is going to use unique democratic governance systems, thus excluding any intermediaries and single bodies of authority. Such democratic approach will allow the project to fund itself as it evolves over time. After the completion of the development process, the Cardano platform will run decentralized apps or dApps independent from any party or government. So this is what it looks like. On the left, you have what we use now on our smartphones, which is applications. So you go to the App Store, you purchase this app, but those apps, they go on your phone, but they go to one server. So when you go to Facebook or you go to Amazon, they go to one location. That location has governance over everything you put in it, and then they transfer that data back to you. However, in dApps, decentralized applications, there's not that one cloud that controls everything. All these in the system, all these nodes, they all get evidence of every transaction. So this backs you up. So it takes you away from having that Federal Reserve in order to have something that's like by the people, for the people. And on this platform, you'll be able to have your apps just like you have Twitter or you have Facebook or you have Amazon. Like they're already building decentralized apps. So people that want to use it in this version, they'll be able to use it, help those people or conform to that as well. So, people are already building decentralized applications to try to get them on these platforms. The unique aspects that I found about Cardano. The Cardano blockchain platform was named after Girolamo Cardano, who was an Italian polymath, mathematician, and a physician. Everything in the Cardano ecosystem is all named after like these people or things that had impact on Charles Hoskinson's life, or things like people who he models after. There's things in philosophy from way back, like things in the Roman Empire, just things that stuck out to him that he felt changed the world as a whole. So everything has meaning in the ecosystem. Cardano formed the first systematic computations of probabilities, thus bringing significant contributions to information technology. And he said that in the video I played for you. He talked about how they're the first to do what he's trying to do. The platform's digital token was named after the daughter of Lord Byron, Ada Lovelace, who was a mathematician and the first ever computer programmer. And Ada is the coin. The smallest denomination of that coin is known as a Lovelace. The layered structure. So the Cardano platform is being built on a layered blockchain software stack. This structure will improve the scalability, which we talked about, reaching more people and be able to do things faster, and the flexibility of all transactions, procedures, and make maintenance a lot easier. Since the layered structure will provide different access to different features of the platform, there will be more room for upgrades through soft forks. The platform will use a settlement layer built to run the digital token ADA, which will be used for transactions. A separate computing layer will be used to handle smart contracts using the Ouroboros proof of stake model. Again, they use Ouroboros to prove everything that they have before they even put it into work. Their coin, ADA, before they started using it, they had a proof of stake, which took time. All these proof of stakes take time. And it's just, they need evidence that it works before they'll put it into the system. This right here is their roadmap. All right, so currently we're in Gauguin. We've already gone through Byron and Shelley, and now we're in Gauguin. You'll see down here below what they try to accomplish at every single layer. And at the bottom, you can see that it's a layered approach. So they don't have to wait till one is completely over for the next level to start. Right here, when one ends, that's when the transition to the next one begins. So here, that was the end of the Byron era, and they transitioned to the Shelley era. And just recently, we went from Gauguin, we just transitioned into the Gauguin phase, and we'll get a little bit more depth into these. All right, so this is what just one level looks like, and this is how close they break it down. It shows you what date, they did what they did on these dates, and then right here you see the transition period between Byron and Shelley. So there's like a methodical approach from the inception. There's like a methodical approach to everything they're going to do. And they walk you through it. Everything is open source. Every little piece of data that they put in there, you can take it and you could try to create your own stuff. Like everything is not a selfish thing. Byron, this was the first layer, that granite that he talked about, the foundation. The story began in 2015 with a vision of addressing the 3 strategic challenges facing all blockchain networks, which was the first and second generations we talked about, which was scalability, the ability to reach more people and conduct more transactions at one time, interoperability, as well as sustainability to ensure that something like the DAO hack never happens. The first incarnation of Cardano allowed users to buy and sell the ADA cryptocurrency. As much as the Byron era was about the first crucial technology developments, it was also about building a community and getting people involved in creating the blockchain of future. And they accomplished that. A lot of people put time into this. A lot of people from all over the world, they contributed to this program, and they do it at no charge. Like they're just doing it because they believe that this will change the world. I know it sounds crazy. I know it sounds like, this is very far-fetched, and I understand. I'm not saying I'm taking all the money that I have and putting it into this, but I'm just saying, like, I've done a lot of research on this, and I'm very optimistic on the outlook of this. Like, even if it doesn't reach 100% of what they're talking about, just what they've accomplished so far, and I'm very bullish on this. Next was Shelley. Again, all these people here, all that he's naming these phases out, they're all somebody who had like some sort of effect on him. And in part 2, we're going to talk about who these people are, and we'll go into a little bit about history on them. Period of growth and development for the network. More nodes shifted towards being run by the Cardano community. So in the beginning, this had to be run mostly by Cardano because it was just the beginning. But little by little, they've shifted more away. So now 80% of the community runs Cardano, and the Cardano Foundation only runs about 20% of this. And they're trying to obviously go to it where the community runs 100% and Cardano just backs off. Introduction of a delegation of incentive scheme, a reward system to drive stake pools and community adoption. So this happened as well. A stake pool, all it is if you have ADA, you take it, instead of taking it out of the blockchain and putting it into your own cold storage wallet, if you keep it in the system, you're going to get anywhere from 5 to 8% on return every year on your investment for keeping it in the system and like allowing people to use. So it's an incentive for people not to pull it out. What's happening with Bitcoin, like we talked about, a lot of people are pulling their Bitcoin out of the system, and that's why the price is going to 40,000, because there's less supply and there's more demand for it. Gauguin, smart contracts. This is the phase that we're at right now, and by March we should be complete with this phase. All right, it has the ability to build dApps, which we talked about, on Cardano's solid foundation of peer-reviewed research and high assurance development. Introduction to a delegation of incentive scheme, a reward system to drive stake pools, which they've just started. Set the stage for a fully distributed network, an entirely new application ecosystem with even greater things to come in Gauguin, Basho, and Voltaire eras. 50 to 100 times more decentralization, which they got to, than other large blockchain decentralized networks. Like I showed you earlier with Bitcoin, they have like very few nodes that are controlling it, very few stake pools, and he's trying to reach equilibrium about 1,000 stake pools. And finally, why use Cardano? Why use it? All right, the platform that uses ADA cryptocurrency was the first blockchain-based platform built in a Haskell programming language, and all Haskell is a type of code language that is used, and is like the simplest code language. And what they want is that a child, not that they're going to, but that even a child would be able to learn how to program this code, because it's so simple to do. and they'll be able to execute a transaction here if need be. They have education on this for free that you can find, either on the Cardano website, and you could go through and actually look through all this stuff. And they teach you how to be a part of this. They teach you how to start a node if you want to start a node, things like that, which I think are great. This is also the first and only blockchain project built by a global team of leading engineers that have years of experience in the crypto space. And with a strong team behind it, and an innovative approach, Cardano is aiming to ensure, again, security, flexibility, and scalability on a whole new level. And we'll talk about it later on in part 2 of this series. But we'll talk about this new partnership that they just started with a security firm that's going to even secure this ecosystem even more. All right, so and again, this is just part 1. In part 1, we talked about the founder, the history of it, where we're at. In part 2, tune in for that, because we're going to talk about where this is going, the next 2 phases. We're also going to talk about my price predictions for 2021 and and beyond. And we're also going to talk about how much I've put into this, and we'll cover all of that next time. For everybody watching this, just know this is not financial advice, and I'm not putting everything into cryptocurrency. So I'm not saying you need to put everything into cryptocurrency, because you can get burned. Bitcoin did go from 20,000 all the way down to 3,000. It can happen again. It could go from 40,000 to 3,000 to 2,000. It can go to zero. So be smart and don't put any money into the market that you're not willing to lose. And that's not just for cryptocurrency. That's for any asset, any type of commodity. Even if you buy a house, the house could burn down and you got nothing. So just know, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Diversify. But please make sure to join us for part 2. In part 2, I'm going to talk about phases 4 and 5. Again, I'm going to talk about where I see this going in 2021. I'm going to say the price prediction ultimately, just based on fundamentals, previous price action, along with how it compares to Bitcoin and other currencies. But with all that said, until next time.